Welcome to Solutions, where men come out of the shadows to testify, giving good tips in manhood, honor the codes of integrity, and give out real solutions for soul survival. Today, we got the Director, Teacher of Leadership for the Palmetto State Teachers Association, an author to The Path to Exceptional Living, 15 Lessons to Living an Extraordinary Life, a 20-year cancer survivor, and he is serving people with a purpose to educate and inspire. Ladies and gentlemen, the co-founder of the Craig King Group, Craig King.
She, my brother, my bulldog brother, man.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Look, man, I'm doing so good, man. Look, when you sent me the message about being on, man, it wasn't a matter of if, it was when. So I'm just happy to be here, man, just to share some knowledge and hopefully, something I say can save somebody. So I'm ready for it. Thanks again.
That's why we're here, man. You're giving away some knowledge. And, you can pick it up the rest when Craig writes his book, but he's going to give a little bit away for you today.
That's right. That's right.
The next book.
The next book. That's right.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
What person did you meet or see that gave you the drive for the man you are today? What defined you?
That's easy. That's easy. The man I saw growing up, every day of my childhood, Thomas Ellison King. My father was the perfect role model for me. I know that's a cliche answer, but oh man, like my dad, I know I'm supposed to use words, but when I think about him, I just think about a consistent stream of influence. And not to plug my book early, but I talk about him on page 77 of my book. I talk about how influence, the speed and price of influence, and how influence can happen in a singular moment when you meet somebody, or by chance occurrence, or over a consistent length of time. And so my dad, Thomas King, had a consistent stream of influence over my life. And so when I think about the one person, the one man that I have come in contact with, or that I think about that made me the man I am today, it's my father. I'm a spitting image of him. And as I get older, I see how some of the things and lessons that he put into me naturally comes out. Prime example, last week, my daughter and I, we were driving home. Shout out to Sanaya, my baby girl. We were driving home, and so I'm a bonus dad to Sanaya. So when I married my wife, Tasia, Sanaya was 11, 12 years old. But anyway, to the story, she said, we were just talking about things, and she said, how do you get so good at talking to people? And I said, my dad was always open. I was always able to go to him and talk about anything. And so she saw that as an open door, because I said, I'm just like him. And then we proceeded to talk all the way home, parked in the driveway. We talked probably for another 45 minutes about things that were important to her. And she was just like, Dad, you're really good at this. I'm like, my dad, I got it from him. And I taught him, he taught me how to navigate difficult times. He taught me how to stay calm, how to give sound judgment, how to be a confidant to people who need need someone to trust in. My wife gets on me all the time, and people get on me all the time because people confide in me with things, and I can hold on to it. I'm not the person that's going to get on social media. I'm not the person that's going to tell the next person about it. So all of those traits, man, I can go on and on talking about Thomas E. King.
Let's stay there for a second. Can you define for me your definition of sound judgment? I want to announce my first book, 10 Most Effective Ways to Reignite Self-Love. It's a deep reflection and deep dive into yourself, how to make yourself better overall. Check it out. It's available in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. If you want more info, email me at solutionsformen@sheen1.com or theauthor@sheen1.com. Let me know. You can RSVP one if you like. Now back to the show.
That's a good question. Sound judgment to me would be being able to take previous experiences, current knowledge, belief systems, whatever your moral compass is that drives you, and take all of those things and the things that matter to make a decision. I think all of those things matter when it comes to sound judgment, because one of my buddies recently started a podcast, and I gave him an idea to explore the concept of independent thinking, which is an art form that we've lost. We've lost the ability to make sound judgments because we lost the ability to be independent thinkers. We are swayed so easily to this side or that side because of an article we see on social media without reading the article or without researching it, without using our own belief systems. We just sway one way or another. And so I think the art of independent thinking has a lot to do with sound judgment, because when you can think for yourself, when you can use your moral compass, the things that make you who you are, to make decisions in your life, you'll find that you make the right decisions, not perfect decisions, not always the right decisions, because, we make mistakes as humans. But I think when it comes to sound judgment, those are the things that we need to consider. And independent thinking is a big part of that.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Just a quick pause in the show to let you know what's going down with Solutions for Men. Visit myfavoritetravels.com for all Solutions for Men merch. Everything you purchase goes to the overall production of the show. So if you like what we got going on here, you can support and get you some merch for Solutions for Men. We're now tuning back to the program. Thank you for this 30-second break. Enjoy the show, man. Outside of survival, a lot of men are pressured to be people they are not.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of survival, I can understand if you were trying to survive a situation and you had to conform to educate yourself to give sound judgments. To some people, they don't listen to anything their mind says or their soul. Right. So sound judgment is very important.
Yeah.
Do you have a vision board?
I have done a vision board. Do I currently have one that's active? In full transparency, I don't have a full vision board that's active, but my wife and I, we actually completed one last year that's still in our closet. So when we walk in to the left, we have a vision board that we completed with my church that has some of the things that we want to accomplish in our marriage, in our home, as parents. And so an active vision board I don't have, but I realized something, Sheen. Vision boards are important, right? They're good. They're objects. They're physical things that usually at the beginning of the year or whenever you do it, usually it's typically at the beginning of the year where people put vision boards together. But one thing I've found that is a constant vision board for me are life experiences. And those life experiences become somewhat of an abstract vision board that if you're in tune to it, if you're in tune to those things that are tied to your vision, you're constantly thinking about them. For example, one thing that I know is on our vision board in our closet is getting out of debt. And my wife will tell you, I check my bank account 3 or 4 times a day. I look at my budget sheet 3 or 4 times a day, because I'm always trying to find ways to accomplish that vision of getting out of debt. So it's more than just a board that I have at home. It's very active in my life with my experiences.
That's amazing, brother. That is amazing. When you think about those things and put those experiences together, and it becomes universe talk, right? It becomes something that has developed.
Secret.
The secret, right? The secret. Let's talk about your book and the goals that you set for that. Tell me, when you sat down to write this book, what were you thinking? What gave you? So many people have a hard time just starting. So tell me, when did you start? Like, when did you put the pen to the paper?
So it had to have been when I started, because it was such an organic experience, because I wanted to write a book, since I was in Orangeburg teaching. And I always wanted to write either a leadership book, a memoir about my life experiences, or some type of leadership book. And so I couldn't decide the angle that I wanted to go. So in 2015, because it took me about three years to write my book. I just started writing.
How many years did it take you?
3 years.
That's good. Okay.
3 years.
I just thought
3 years. It was very organic. I didn't rush the process. It took me about 3 years.
That's very important.
I didn't rush the process, Sheem. So it took me about 3 years to write the book, and the book is called The Path to Exceptional Living, 15 Lessons to Live an Extraordinary Life. And I'm glad it took 3 years, because many of the lessons that came about happened within those 3 years.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't like everything in the book happened prior to 2015 when I started writing the book. Some of those lessons actually happened within that time frame between 2015 and 2018 when I released my book in May of 2018. And the lessons in the book deal with interactions with everyday people, my family, friends, strangers, actually sometimes nobody. Be a bridge builder is one of the lessons in my book, where I talk about how I was walking to work one day at the State House, and I took this alley that I knew was flooded, and someone put a bench in the middle of the flood, in the middle of the puddle that normally gets flooded really bad, and you normally get your socks and shoes wet. And I took a screenshot or a picture of that bridge, and I looked back at it and I said, wow, like, this person put this here because he had previous experiences of probably getting his shoes and his socks wet. Mm-hmm. But he wasn't standing beside that bridge yelling, saying, hey, look at me, this is what I did for you. Mm. He put it there, kept going about his business. And then I expounded on that. I said, how many of us are building bridges in our lives for other people that don't have our names attached to it? Like, how many? Because now this podcast needs your face, needs your liking, needs you, because this is something that you're putting out for the people. My book needs to have my name on it, right? But those everyday things that we can do, for people that we know or don't know, that can build bridges, that can help them along the way, it doesn't need your name attached to it. But guess what the most powerful part of that is, Sheen?
Talk to me, brother.
It's still part of your legacy. Even if the world has no idea your name is attached to it. Your legacy can have your name attached to certain things. And that might be a difficult concept for people to grasp. If it's my legacy, then people need to know it's with me. No.
Who said legacy had to be popular? Who said legacy had to be popular?
Come on. Talk to the people.
I think that's where humble comes in, right? Humble comes right there where you leave your legacy. If you're not looking for popularity, but your legacy, you know what it is. And you know by the way you walk and talk, because your confidence know what you've done for people.
Right.
And I lived in that realm within the artist community. I've done a lot of things for artists that I didn't publicize, that I don't talk about. There's no need to. Because that moment was for them.
Right.
And only them.
Right. So my book is a great book, easy read. And this is something, anybody out there, any young men or seasoned men out there that are, or just people in general that want to write a book, one thing I will say is don't cheat the process. And you will find that piece of advice from anybody in any industry. Any successful person will tell you, don't cheat the process. And when it comes to writing a book, don't cheat the process of having an editor, a book coach. Shout out to Tamika Sims, who lives right here in Columbia, who's my writing coach. She shut me down plenty of times. She pushed me. And so I am proud of my entire book. It has no errors. It reads easily. But guess what? If I didn't have that writing coach pushing me and holding me accountable, it would not have been, because, we can produce work, right? Now, when you're an artist, that's different. You don't want anybody critiquing your work. But when it comes to literature and you putting out written word for people to read, she shared something with me. She said, Craig, you want this book to be read by someone that can be easily read by someone in South Carolina, Australia, Hawaii, Mexico, Africa.
Bigger picture.
Right. You want it to have that. And so she opened my eyes to a lot of things when it comes to grammar. As a teacher by trade, when I gave her my raw manuscript, I was just like, you know what? She's going to make a few grammatical errors here and there. Bruh.
Swoosh.
She did a free 5-page sample editing before I hired her, and bruh, she just opened my eyes. And
Too much
from
grammatical errors, right?
grammatical errors, and just flow.
Yeah.
A lot of it was flow. It was definitely grammatical errors, but also flow. So
those grammatical errors will sneak up on you because the way your brain is wired, the way you write and talk, you don't think there's anything wrong with that because you convince yourself that you learned the process. Let me push back on you for a second when you talked about the artists being critiqued. You're absolutely right about artists wanting to be critiqued, but they love a challenge. I think she challenged you because being challenged and being critiqued is the line I feel shows if you want it or not.
That's a great point.
If you're critiqued and you get upset and you say I'm the best and walk away, then you're not up for the challenge of being uncomfortable. And you can never be the best without being uncomfortable.
Oh, I'm writing that down. You're not up to the challenge of being uncomfortable.
You got to be uncomfortable if you want to get to the next level. Once you get comfort, once you settle in and you have it, that's where faith and hope comes in, right? The definition of those words is knowledge and understanding, and know that you know what you're doing. So now you have to break that up a little bit. And challenge yourself and get uncomfortable. How early were you when you started goal setting? How old were you when you started goal setting? How early was it?
It's a great question, Sheen. I think in some form I've always been goal setting, but to put a stamp on it when it comes to my professional career, I would say
even before then, because we are cocooning every day into different circumstances. When you're young, man, you can look back and say I was doing something I didn't realize I was doing it. What were those goal setting moments? What was those goal setting moments for you that you can look back now and say, I was a young man and I was doing this, setting myself up for this. Grammatical error. I was doing this, setting myself up for that. Excuse me.
So two instances, and thank you for interjecting and providing that perspective on it, because we are cocooning and we are learning from our mistakes, and sometimes we don't internalize that as the process of goal setting, right? And so two instances. The first one's pretty funny. So, funny to me still. So middle school, they had this rule at my middle school, which I still think to this day was a silly rule, but it was a rule and I broke it. So the rule was our sixth grade class, our seventh grade class, entire class, all the students were divided in half. So one half of the students had to go to lunch first, and the other half went to recess. And then at a certain time you flip. And so I went the opposite way because I was hungry. I wanted to eat. So I went and I got in trouble, but I didn't think it was going to be like go to the principal's office, 3 paddles trouble. Right. Like I went and ate. And so in that moment, and after that moment, I learned that procedures in their own ways are there for a reason. I learned now, looking back, there was a reason those procedures were put in place. And I also learned that I wasn't privy or in the position enough to even know why they were there. So knowing your place, and I think now a lot of our, not just young people, but people in general, have a problem with knowing their place and understanding you can't see where everyone else sees a situation because of where you are currently. I was a student. There was a reason why they had that in place. I was punished. Now, I didn't agree with being punished, but that was the case, in that situation. Now, the second example really changed the trajectory of my career. So I didn't decide I wanted to become a teacher until my senior year in high school. Prior to that, I was going to major in computer science because that's what my oldest brother did, and he seemed to be pretty successful, right? And so not until I had an experience of mentoring a third grade student named Sterling my senior year in high school for Project for PAL. Shout out to Manning High School, Coach Michael Haynes, who was the advisor. Not until then I realized the importance of my decisions and my goals that I set for my life, because I was about to enter into a field I didn't care about. The only reason I cared about it is because my brother cared about it and wanted to pursue it. And so I realized that my actions, my thoughts, the things I decide to pursue, the goals I decide to set, they matter. And so having that experience, those two experiences, the latter being a little bit more serious, showed me the importance of goal setting. So, Sheem, you pulling some stuff out of me, man. That's good. Like, no, seriously, bro. Because usually when the questions are asked, we look at them on a surface level sometimes. Sometimes we go into the depth, but wow, I never really thought about going back in time to process goal setting as a young kid, and using like mistakes to chart the path for better decisions, which you can in turn say, you make better decisions, and they're somewhat, goals, things that you want to do better.
You've been very consistent when you look back and say, I've been very consistent, and this is how I got here. That's when the universe talk starts to come in. If you need to change, if you need to pivot, but if you get somewhere and you find yourself saying, I'll give you an example. Now we're going to go off script for a minute. I can edit this part out, but if you like to keep it, we can.
Okay.
Growing up in my neighborhood, it was about 10 of us. I'm the only one that went to college. I'm the only one who survived. Never been shot, never been to prison. Everybody else in that 9 have all those things, or maybe both, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
When I was at a hotel in Dubai last month, sitting on a canal, watching the sun go down over the top of the emirate of the embassy where the sheikh lived. I looked at a guy next to me who was from Atlanta, Georgia, who was also from the hood. And I said, why do you think he chose us? Right? Why am I sitting here and the rest of my guys could never see this? Mm-hmm. And it bothered me for like a week. So then I started to think about, this is before I started even think about, I already thought about this show, but I didn't have the name. I didn't have anything. Then I started thinking, I want to do something about manhood. And then when I start to look back at all the things I've done, even rapping, leading and anything, I was always talking about manhood since I was a kid. And I said, I put myself here without knowing it. And I knew then that these questions I have and able to talk to anyone, I am ready for, because everything I put myself through, that my spirit put myself through, in the timing that it did, I am on the right path.
Right.
I think life is about timing, and let me break that down to you. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to, I don't know if you're supposed to go home. Let's say your next option for you is to leave home. To go home, right? To your family. But let's say you were promiscuous and stopped at a club to get a drink. Mm-hmm. That wasn't in your plan. You did that. You made the choice to do that, knowing that you shouldn't be going home. You threw your timing off for your blessings, to be in the right place at the right time. If that makes sense. Like we are where we're supposed to be at the right time, but it's how you're there. Whether you're the president of the company or whether you're just walking in the door because you spent so much time wasting it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. No,
it makes a lot of sense.
We throw our time off for the place we're supposed to be. And I think for the most part, I didn't do that. But talk to me about your apex in your career right now and where you would like to see, if the overall zenith, where you want it to be. And right now, tell me the apex that you did achieve.
So the apex I did achieve and where I see myself going.
Yes.
Pretty much. So right now, currently, multiple apexes, because I don't look at it just professionally. One, I am the husband of an amazing woman. like going back to what you said about timing. So if I would have, like, knowing what I have now and experiencing what I have now with my wife Tasia, and our daughter Sanaya, if I made the decision to embark in a marriage with someone prior to Tasia and Sanaya, I know the way I feel now with them, that would have been the wrong decision if I would have did it prior with someone else. Mm-hmm. And so now I am experiencing somewhat of an apex. You know, we've been married 4.5 years, and a lot of people are like, oh, keep living, you're going to get tired of it. No, bro. Like, no, I made the right decision. Mm-hmm. Doesn't say we're going to have a perfect marriage, but I made the right decision. So I consider that a continuous apex of my life. I love going home to her and Sanaya. Career-wise, you know, if you would have asked me when I was 2004 at SC State, when I was graduating, I was going to teach for 30 years. I was going to teach third grade. Shout out to the Bulldogs. I was going to teach third grade for 30 years and retire. And so the 7 years that I spent teaching, I was highly successful as a third grade teacher. I was highly successful at changing the trajectory of young boys and girls' lives, mostly African American and brown students. I was highly successful at leading people. I was highly successful at being a fantastic coworker. And this is not to gloat or anything, but it.
No, man, speak your accolades. You earned it.
I was fantastic, and it's not the awards. You know, I was fantastic at leading people and adding value to people and showing my worth in various situations, and not necessarily, you know, receiving the credit for it. I was very successful in all of those things, and what was happening was that people were noticing that I didn't know at the time. And so what happened was in 2008, I'm still teaching. I didn't leave teaching until 2011. 2008, my current boss came to me and said, Craig, I want to hire you. I'm not hiring anyone else, right? I said, she's not going to do that. She's going to hire somebody else. She just wants me to come. I declined the offer because in my mind, I was going to teach for 30 years, retire that, you know, whatever. 2009, same thing. 2010. So 3 years passed and I'm still declining this offer, and she's holding fast. Craig, I'm not hiring anybody but you. And then the time came for me to make the decision because, you know, it's going to be hard for some people to believe this, but I think most people who are like-minded like us will see it. The reason I decided to leave teaching was because that 7th year of teaching, because of all those things I mentioned before, I was constantly pulled on to do things within my school district. I was serving on committees. I was speaking in state and out of state, different places. And who was suffering, Sheen? My students. My students suffered. That year, they suffered so much academically, emotionally. You know, when I told them, you know, growing up, when some of my teachers said they were going away, it was like, yes, like movie day, we're going to do some fun stuff, right? But, you know, for my kids, they would cry when I told them I had to leave, when I had to go speak somewhere. Not that I didn't want to be there. And so anyway, going back to my apex, then I got asked to be a statewide advocate for public education in South Carolina in 2011. And with my current job, my boss who said she wasn't hiring anybody else. And what does that say about what she saw in me for her to continue doing 2 jobs for 3 years and say, that's who I want?
Consistency.
Right? And so in that moment, or in those moments, I just learned so much about the decisions I make and the way I interact with people and how I treat people matters, not because you want a job later down the road. It's the right thing to do. Right. That's why you do it. All those things I mentioned, it was the right thing to do. It goes back to that person, that first question you asked me. It goes back to my dad and the example I saw in him. I saw him treat people the right way. I saw him never curse my mom out. I saw him never drink in our house. I'm not saying he didn't do any of those. I never saw it. So it never happened. right? I never experienced it. I saw him and my mom have a loving relationship in front of us. I saw him provide. I saw him work an hour and 15 minutes away, one way, but still make it to my basketball, baseball games, right? So going back to my Apex, getting off topic a little bit.
No, you good.
So I saw those things. So those things naturally flooded into me, professionally and personally. I'm a great husband because I saw my dad being a great husband. Great father because I saw my dad being a great father. And so professionally, when I decided to take that job, that was the number one reason. My students suffered. Because if it was about flexibility, about pay and all those things, I would have taken it in 2008 when I was district teacher of the year and I got offered it, right? Like if it was about those things, and not saying those things are bad, but that was the number one reason, Sheem, I decided to leave because my kids suffered. And, when I tell people that, I was like, oh, your kids loved you. They did well. But no, as the number one factor of their success, because teachers are the number one factor of student success in the classroom. That teacher. Home and life is important. Parent support, absolutely. Those things matter. But oftentimes in education, they're used as an excuse. Oh, so-and-so is being raised by his grandparents. So-and-so is in a single-parent household. So-and-so has a brother or a friend strung out on drugs. Those things are important to know for teachers. But I decided not to use them as an excuse to why Dante, Devontae, Jaquel, Kimberly, all of them, Kiesia, I'm calling out my student's name, why they couldn't learn. None of those things mattered, right?
The biggest thing people, I think, don't realize is that the way America's work system is set up for most middle class and below families, you spend only about 2 hours a night with your family. So if these kids are in school with you for 8 hours a day?
At least. Yeah.
By no lesser, you are kind of a surrogate parent.
Oh yeah, I got called dad a lot.
Right. And then you couple in the percentages of single parent homes or the lack of leadership in the home from men or women. People always look for something to look up to. And
those things don't matter when it comes to the success of those children, because we can point to multiple examples. So it depends on our school system that is fractured, right? Our public school system that is fractured in the way we fund our kids and how we treat our teachers. But teachers make the world of difference. And I'm so appreciative of the work that they do every day, man. It's just phenomenal as Director of Teacher Leadership to witness these teachers doing phenomenal things, and being a teacher myself, because I still consider myself a teacher, knowing what phenomenal teaching looks like and to be able to see it.
Now, it leads me to my next question, which you partially answered, but I want to go a little bit deeper. For the apexes you spoke of and the successes you have, tell me, what did you sacrifice?
I think I sacrificed having, and it's not necessarily a bad sacrifice. So a few things, one, I sacrificed having this large pool of, I guess, a large amount of time just to do, I guess, fun stuff, people would say, or I've sacrificed, time, I would say.
Break it down for me, because right here is the moment where there's someone else sacrificing the way you are. Yeah. And sometimes people don't know how to deal with the fact they are missing out on fun. They do think they are wasting time.
Yeah. But I think to break it down, I think I've sacrificed a healthy mental health. Because a lot of times when you are all those things I mentioned before, a lot of times you don't leave time for self. You probably don't know this, but my sophomore year at South Carolina State University, it was my first semester of my sophomore year. I was extremely depressed. Extremely depressed. It was to the point where in my car, driving around Orangeburg 3:00 in the morning would run red lights. thinking somebody was going to T-bone me and take me out. And I was doing that on purpose. And I think going further in life, being a cancer survivor, and some of the mental strife that goes along with that, I think I've sacrificed receiving the help that I need mentally. And I think a lot of times when you are that person, when you are the one that people look to in a family situation or in a community situation, your mental health suffers. And one thing that saved me my sophomore year was counseling. You know, I had a psychosocial counselor that I talked to at the cancer center that really helped me out a lot. And also I had a couple of friends that stayed that would really be a lending ear for me. And another thing, man, like, you know, success requires a little bit of loneliness. It requires you to be alone sometimes, especially when the people around you may want to go out or do other things that don't hold value in that particular season of your life. You know, when I was writing my book, I was, you know, in a moment where I was trying to get things done, right? When I was teaching, you know, it was very little for play outside of that. And so, you know, sacrifice comes in many forms. And I have to be careful about it, especially being married now, you know, because no matter how long my day is, I still have to go home and be husband and dada to my girls. And so if you're not taking care of yourself, right, you'll find yourself sacrificing things that mean the most to you.
Let's continue with that, because you were right there where my next question was. And we're going to get real deep now.
All right.
Talk to me about your lowest moment, but not just talk to me about it. You already spoke of what happened your sophomore year. And if that was your lowest moment, let's go into how. Not just saying you sought counseling, but there's a point in you to have to go and actually seek counseling, right?
Yeah.
The process. We're trying to get to the point where someone who is matching your intensity of where they were at the time, what makes them go and find help for that last bit of survival, that fight or flight? Tell me, how did you do it?
What got me there, going to the first part, and then how did I do it? How I got there, I mentioned briefly, I was diagnosed with cancer when I was 17. I was living with it my senior year in high school. Didn't know it, got diagnosed the summer after I graduated high school. And so I actually was supposed to start at State in 99, but I didn't start until 2000. But that year I went through chemotherapy, limb salvage surgery that saved my leg. I had a moment where you see it in movies, but when you experience it, you're like, wow, this thing really happens. I had a allergic reaction to one of the chemotherapies, methotrexate, where I almost died twice. And my temperature spiked to 104, throat swelled up. And I saw, in a matter of seconds, visions of my life flash before my eyes, and then a white light. I mean, it was very vivid. And that happened twice. And Sheem, that was a very low moment for me, because prior to that, it was more so going through the flow. I had a mom who told me when I was diagnosed, it's a small speed bump, you'll get through it. My mama said it's gonna happen. And so having those initial experiences where you fear or you feel and you experience like near death and not coming back. And what is that equivalent to somebody out there listening to this? Because it's not going to be cancer for everybody, right? So what's that equivalent to you where it's an awakening, where your perspective changes, where, wow, like this is real what I'm going through, whether it's addiction, whether it's abuse, whether it's just not feeling like you don't know yourself, whether it's being unable to provide for your family, your kids are going hungry, whatever your issue is as a man, and getting to that point where it hits you in the face. Mm-hmm. And so I think fast forwarding, even when I beat cancer, fast forwarding past that and having to start college right after, looking back at it, and I don't fault my parents for it. I mean, it's just like, you know, I know I should have went through counseling then, because I know I had those low moments going through that treatment, and then just to kind of brush it off and do my freshman year, breeze through it, but then sophomore year to get to that point where I'm experiencing that depression, and I'm doing things that could have potentially ended my life or harmed other people. That's the thing,
right?
That I didn't realize in the moment. Like, if somebody hits me, it's a good chance I hurt them. Was that my intention? No. But what's the reality? Yeah, I mean, it wasn't my intention. I was just being selfish. I don't want to be here. I'm hurting. I need to, do this. But who is it hurting in return? And so, what that looks like for you, you have to look deep inside and figure out, I need to seek help for this. And I think as men, I think we're slowly coming to grips with some of the things that we may have seen growing up that defines manhood, that really doesn't define manhood.
You spoke something when you spoke about the different categories of what you could be dealing with to make you face a life change. Feeling like you don't know yourself. A lot of people don't even address that as an issue. And I think that was powerful, what you said. When someone sits there, everything is good or everything could be bad, but you're feeling like you don't know yourself. That sounds like an out-of-body experience when you're watching yourself do things you can't believe you're doing right now.
Yeah.
That's powerful. It's powerful.
Yeah, it is powerful. And the key is recognizing it, because we make excuses or we find reasons for why we did it. We justify it. But when we're making those active decisions in that moment, when it's out of character, like you said, sometimes it's like an out-of-body experience, because you're actually seeing yourself actively making this bad decision, right? And know the consequences of it. Or you're in a situation that you don't have control over, causing negative results.
Or you're not experienced enough to stop it. You'll see it happening and you're trying to analyze instead of stopping.
Yeah.
And that can lead to some great destruction.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how important it is to leave where you're from and rebranding yourself.
Leaving where I'm from and rebranding yourself.
Your domain, where you're from, your circle.
I think that is tied to the things you value in a moment or where you are in your life. The things I value when I was 20 to 25 are different things that I value now at 39. And so the rebranding happens kind of organically, where, life experiences, people who come into your life, people that exit your life that you thought would be there forever. I think all of those things continue to be the rebranding experience that you experience, and you never reach that apex when it comes to that. I just think it's always going to change based on your value system. Right now in my life, I believe in, I believe God. I believe family. I believe my work with children with cancer. I believe in treating people right. And I believe in serving people. And so those things are really important to me. And on some scale, all 5 of those things were important. But when I was 20, 25, my family, as far as like a wife and kids, I wasn't thinking about that. I mean, that was something I valued because I experienced it. I was in it with my parents and my brothers. But that holds so much weight now. So the weighting changed. So sometimes your belief system have always been there in different percentages, if we want to think about it like that. But as you go through life, those percentages can go up or down. For example, just being shallow for a second, there was a period in time where I felt like I had to drive a BMW. You remember my white BMW at State Sheen?
Yeah.
And I blame my dad. I blame my dad for that. I had, it was older models now. We never bought them brand new now. I'm not going to perpetrate.
Listen, I don't think, at that point, I don't think it's selfish. I think we're at a point now where you should indulge in certain things and say you lived and did that, because there's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes it's how you present it to other people, which could be somewhat ineffective in terms of not caring about the status quo of others.
Right.
But if you are enjoying your life and these options are available to you, there's no reason why you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, and I was speaking from the point of from that time where
you were young and wild, riding around and having a good time.
But the thing is, my first BMW, my dad bought for me, and it goes back to how you carry yourself and the decisions you make, even when you were young. So let me tell you about the vehicles I drove in high school. I drove a 87 Supra that when you got out, you smell like gas. Guess what? I was happy to have a car to drive. I drove my grandfather's 84 Silverado that was loud. I drove my dad's 85 gray Honda that when I got to the senior parking area, I had to pop the hood, unloosen the battery cable for the light on the inside to cut off. But guess what? I was thankful.
I know all about that. Listen,
look, I was so thankful, and so
it becomes regular. It becomes regular to you.
So I was playing baseball my senior year, also living with cancer, didn't know it. I came home from late one night, candy red 87 BMW sitting in the yard. I'm thinking it's my cousin Dale from Atlanta who always had a BMW. I walk in the house and my dad, first thing he says, "You think you can handle that out there?" Yeah, I can handle that. Like, it's yours. He gave me the keys. And ever since then, you pulling stuff out of me, Sheen. You're pulling stuff out of me. I never thought about it like this until right now. I'm about to, for your viewers only, I'm about to pull out a lesson, probably why I was so attached to BMWs, because it was attached to what my dad saw in me and felt that I deserved it. Like my son is driving a car that when he gets out at school, he's smelling like gas, but he's not complaining. He's driving a loud truck that used to be his grandfather's that has two fuel reservoirs, but only one work. He's driving a Honda where he has to unloosen the cable for the light to come on, but he's not complaining. And so I think now, so I had the red BMW, then I had surgery on my leg, and then I got the white BMW. And then after that, I got a green BMW. So I think somewhere in there was a connection to my dad. I think there was a connection to my dad, and I felt like to stay connected to him, even though he was still living there, but it was important for me to carry on that. And so, but then I got to a point now, so let me finish real quick.
Okay, yeah.
So then I got to now, so right before I got married, I bought a Honda Accord brand new. So I wanted something reliable for my family. So we got married. My wife's car that I'm driving now is not as reliable, but she drives it because I want her to be safe. Like when it comes to both of us driving, I need her to be the safest. So she's driving the Honda and I'm driving a car that's loud when you crank it up, has some mechanical issues, but I'm okay. Like I'm not pressed to have the luxury car right now. I'm getting it. Don't worry, it's coming. It's coming. It's coming, but I'm thankful. I don't need that right now because I have some value systems that are a lot higher right now. Safety for my wife and knowing my daughter's gonna need a car soon too.
You just running me through all my questions without even have to ask them, because the next thing we was gonna talk about was fatherhood and mentorship. Yeah. But let's go back real quick and talk about the BMW thing. And when we talked about our matriculation on things that we cocooned out of every day, instinctively, you purchased the BMWs for a closer connection to your father.
And it was hard to let go.
To keep that going.
The red one we had to let go because my younger brother tore it up. The white one is still in my parents' backyard now, and I need to sell it, but I'm just holding on to it. And the green one, I had some transmission issues. There wasn't no need to hold on to that. And the green one I sold right before we got married, and You know, I think I felt a deep connection to those BMWs outside of the fact that they were BMWs. Because prior to that, I didn't have a desire to have a BMW. My dad kind of put that in me. But he also showed me how to buy used cars too.
I want to talk to you about being a bonus father.
Man.
There are a lot of people who walk into that blindly and don't understand the sensitivity and the psychological value it has, and also in the patience it takes. I had a bonus dad, and for what I was told, I wasn't very nice all the time when he first came around when I was young. But speak to me about the level of patience, the things you practice to earn the trust to be honored as a bonus dad.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I took from being diagnosed with cancer, I realized the people that helped me the most were the people that went through it themselves. And so when it came to that, I talked to guys that were bonus dads that came into a situation that was either similar to mine or not really similar to mine, but they were bonus dads, and how you build those relationships. And the number one thing that they all told me in some way was to be yourself. Because if you pretend to be somebody else, who you really are is going to eventually come through. And then, you're going to lose the trust of that person or that child. And so what happened for me was I was able to interact with Sanaya at our church prior to my wife and I even dating. Because when I joined the church and we went to, my wife was dating somebody else. And no, for the people, I didn't break them up. They broke up on their own. I know that's what people always want to go. Nope, that's not what happened. So
I think I was thinking that, God brought the right man to the church.
She might have looked at me and was like, "Oh, he cute." No, I'm just kidding, man. But so I was fortunate enough where I established somewhat of a relationship with her prior to that, and she called me Mr. Craig at that time. So we had a relationship. So it was somewhat of a smoother transition. It wasn't like Tasia was like, "Here's the guy I'm dating." Like, she already knew.
And wait, I must say this, and no to the people at home that think his plan was to get in good with the daughter first.
Exactly. I joined the church because my friend, good friend, Pastor Sim, is the pastor of the church, and I wanted to get involved with the children. He was like, "You need to talk to Tasia. She's over our children's ministry," and that's how it happened. Anyway, so yeah, being a bonus dad has extremely blessed my life tremendously. Sanaya is so talented. She's an entrepreneur at 16. She sells eyelashes.
Hold on, we got a little disconnected. I think your headphones might have connected again.
Yeah,
It's all right. I went back out again.
You can't? Okay. Sorry about that.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Oh, she's 16 years old and she's selling eyelashes.
Eyelashes, and so the thing is, I'm not an eyelash person, right? My wife, I like my wife to, if she wears them, just the very modest ones or whatever. But the thing is, one thing I learned being an entrepreneur myself, if there's a demand out there, as long as there ain't nothing illegal, right? So if there's a demand for young ladies and women to want eyelashes and she could provide that, make that money. Mm-hmm. So she has a dream not to just do that like long term, but to get into cosmetology, and she's a competitive dancer as well. And so I'm so proud of her. Like, I'm so proud of her fight to do well in school and to be a good friend. And I've seen our relationship grow more and more. She trusts me with things that she won't even trust her mom with first. Like, she'll come to me and talk about boys. She'll talk about boys. And so,
well, it's the best to talk to somebody who knows boys.
Yeah, that's right. So she'll come to me and talk about that and friendships and just regular life stuff. And so, yeah, man, bonus dad is awesome. So fellas out there, I know it can be difficult, but number one, seek someone who has done it. Get tips. Be yourself. Be yourself. and approach the situation with caution and care. You know, you may be used to doing certain things when you're home alone by yourself. And this is even if you have a bonus daughter or bonus son, you may have norms that you would probably do if it was just you and your significant other. But you need to put up some of those things in, you know, because you just don't know the previous situation. So you always have to be cautious in those situations and ease your way into some of those things you would normally do and say, because it's different, because you didn't have that child when they were born and been there the whole time.
We only got a few questions left. I'm not going to hold you too much longer. I know you want to get to your family. So I appreciate you giving those comments on being a bonus dad. I think that's going to be some valuable information in there for that. I want to talk to you about, we talk about leaving a legacy, right, for our families, and we talk about being patriarchs. But we mostly ignore major steps. Do you have a will?
A will? I don't have a will.
And I ask that question to everyone, and usually 100%. Well, I'm 99.9. Only one of my guests has a will. And I want to stress the importance of not having someone fight over your things and not having someone being responsible to pay for something like your burial when you're alive now.
I don't have a active will, but I do have, my wife and I both have life insurance, a significant amount of life insurance on both of us and our child, that not only covers burial, but also covers any debt and living expenses, at least for a few years. So that's one thing we did do when we got married, because that was important, because I didn't want to put her in a position to where it's like, we're not doing GoFundMe in my family. We're not doing it. We're not. But to your point about, you know, the assets and things like that, the will, that's important. And it's something that's been on my mind, and we just got to do it. I love it.
I think the energy of it, a lot of people walk away from it because of what the energy has to be given to prepare.
Yeah.
But the most certain thing in life that we have, the most guaranteed that we know, is that one day we will be recycled.
Yeah. Let me tell you, and let me give you a shout out right now. The courage to ask those questions on a forum like this shows you love and you care about the people you bring on here, and not only them, but your listeners. Because
I appreciate it.
Because let me tell you what most people would do. They would shy away from that type of question to ask on a forum like this, because it's going to be out there for people to watch. And I'm not ashamed of that. I don't have one, because it's going to make somebody look like, wow, Craig don't have a will? I would think if anybody had a will, Craig would do it. You know, Craig seems like a responsible guy, but he does have life insurance for him and his family now. That's important. But
well, let me stop you right there. The biggest thing about in our community, and I told this story before to another gentleman, I don't have a will. I'm asking the question, and I don't have.
Oh, look at that.
Right? And I think for me, it wasn't important, obviously, but it is important.
Yeah.
This is where the question came from. I was looking for company in my ignorance, and I had plenty of it. And it's not to make fun of anyone, but I wanted to bring importance to someone. An elderly white man pulled me to the side in the gym. He didn't know me. He just came up to me and said, "Hey, young man, do you have a will?" Come to find out, he was a multi-millionaire lawyer who owned most of the wings places in Colombia.
Wow.
Buffalo Wild Wings. And it has nothing to do with his status, but he still took the time to talk to me and ask me about a will. So every day, every time he saw me in the gym, "Did you get that will yet?" A lot of people don't have it. And I'm like, I'm a young man. What do I need a will for?
Yeah.
But it's important. It just speaks. And then I started asking my elderly people above me. I started asking my parents, my cousins, my brothers. No. Because I think in our culture, we deal with trauma so much. To bring the energy to start talking about that makes you feel like, my dad is 76 years old. He came on the show. Thank God he came on the show. I asked him that question. He said, man, we still got time for that. That lets me know.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to even talk about it. But you're 76. Right. Not saying that you're near anything, but the conversation needs to be.
Wow.
It's nothing but a piece of paper and writing it down and signing your name to it.
Yep, and saying this is where I want this to go. This is where I want because in my mind, somebody like me that says, no, I don't have a will, but you know what? I have, I got life insurance, so people taking care of. But now, when I think about it, I've thought about it before. I think about other assets and other things that I have that could be potentially taken away if it's not explicitly put in writing. That's important for me to take care of because, I think the one of the biggest gifts you can give for your loved ones is when you leave here, all they have to do is mourn you. Like that's the reason why the level of life insurance that we got because I wanted her to not have to worry about, now we got to pull 500 from here. Or I got to ask somebody for this. I got to do a GoFundMe. Nope. If something happens, the house is paid for. You can pay for the house. You can pay for all my debt that they're going to come knocking on your door for. You can do all that. You can just write the checks and it'll be done for. But the will is something we don't have that both of us need to do.
It's just a conversation to be had one time. You pray over it and you can leave it right where it's at.
That's right.
But as you grow and get more things, of course, you got to make some changes. But
yeah,
changes saying you got more is a good thing for the person you're leaving it to.
Yeah, you asked the question earlier, so I'm gonna be quiet. I think you're gonna ask it again. I think.
What question was that?
Go ahead. About mentoring, you jumped on mentoring, so I didn't want to jump ahead.
Yeah. We can go back to that because I just wanted to stay in the vein of things you were talking about. Talk to me about mentoring.
So about a month ago, I got a phone call from a professional colleague who said, Craig, I really need you to reach out to this person, this young male, African-American male, who just needs a mentor, whatever, who needs to talk to somebody. And I said, absolutely. So I called them. And that conversation was so powerful, Sheen. It was so powerful in many ways. One, this young man is amazing. And on our first phone call, he did something that was very similar to what you just did to me. Because a lot of times when you reach out to somebody on a cold call or just talking to them and you're establishing some type of relationship with them, there's not accountability there. There's more so of a blanket. Oh, we're gonna get together. I'll call you sometime, whatever. He did something. I said, and we kind of had that, both of us, where I was like, yeah, man, we're gonna stay connected, blah, blah, blah. And I meant it, but he said, well, let's make it every week, this same time and day. I was like, wow. Like, it showed me that, one, he saw value in what I could bring to his life in the season he's in. And two, he demanded accountability. Like, don't just call me one time and, because maybe he's been burned in the past with so-called mentors. So now, now on my calendar, because I'll kind of cover his name up, but boom, every Tuesday at 5:00, it's on my calendar, and we chat, we call each other, and we talk. Now, if something comes up, it comes up, but it showed me something I always believed about mentorship. If you can't do it consistently and faithfully, it's better that you decline, because I've been tugged on to mentor so many people, and the power of saying no, not saying that you didn't care, but if you can't do it consistently, sometimes it'll do more harm than good if you come into someone's life, kid or adult, that you're mentoring and you can't consistently be there for that person.
I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Now, you have experience with mentoring people. Had there ever been a moment where you were mentoring, and you weren't seeing a steady increase of their personality or their want to thrive? Did you try a method of a tough love and it not work out?
No, because tough love is not who I am. That, to try an approach that is not innately inside of Craig is doing that person a disservice. Just like my technique with my daughter is very methodical, very even keel, approach. And so when it comes to mentoring, when I look at mentoring my students, I go back to the granular level of being a third grade teacher, not seeing the success that I wanted, but knowing that the approach that I'm taking as not just their academic instructor, but also a father figure and mentor, that I just needed to stay the course. And the thing I had to realize is that change I'm hoping to see may not come in those 180 days that they're with me. It may come years later.
All right. So to follow up the question for me is, how do I approach a man I have problems with?
That's a great question. I think before that approach even happens, you have to be extremely honest with yourself of your intentions of the interaction. Because sometimes the issue you have with a person, it's not even worth you having interactions with them.
Right.
Now, if it's something that is going to affect your livelihood, your family, your money, things that are important to you on a daily basis, and that person or that man is causing conflict in those things that you're responsible for, you have to figure out, why am I approaching this man and my intention? Because things can get heated if you approach it the wrong way, even if you approach it the right way.
Tell me, how would you approach it? If, let's say, this person was something okay, let's give a scenario. You work for someone. You don't like the way they speak to you. You don't like the way they talk to you. How does a man approach that to another man, knowing that he can possibly lose his job and it costs his family an income? Knowing that the vitriol of accountability.
Yeah.
People don't like accountability. But if you demand it,
I've learned to love it.
I love it too. But when you demand it from your to be received and given,
so
people run from it.
Well, sometimes it's all about the build up to that, because if you are approaching another man about a situation where there was no relationship prior, you're pretty much doomed from the start. You're doomed from the start. There was no addition to that person. There was no value added to that person. There was no influence, no positive influence to that person. There was no learning from that person. And so that will make it difficult. Now, on the flip side, if you do have those things, if you are an employee or employer, or employee of someone and your boss, like the example you gave, and y'all have a working relationship, y'all have a situation where they've added value to you. For example, my current boss, we and her have a great working relationship. So I've come to her with things that I needed to change within my role here at PSA. Give you a prime example. 2 years ago, I'm being paid to be a lobbyist, right? I'm a lobbyist, Director of Governmental Affairs for PSDA. 2 years ago, I'm comfortable enough to come there and say, Kathy, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to finish out my year of doing it, but I can't do it anymore. And because of the value that was added by me to the organization and the value she saw in me, it was a situation where she was able to say, fine, you can transition into this role. What do you want to do? And I was able to say, well, these are things I like to do. And I'm actually able now to organically grow the position that I'm in now in the way that I see fit. And so it's all about those relationships. And I'll be honest with you, Sheen, I've never had that experience. So it's hard for me to answer that.
No, that's a great answer. But listen, you just helped a lot of people. You look at the situation and then you first analyze and have a sound judgment, establishing the value you have in that relationship. Because if it doesn't have a certain level of value, then you'll fall on deaf ears. That is a great answer.
Sometimes it might not be worth addressing. Like what value that person, and that's personal relationships. Like and going back to mentoring, like I have mentors. One of them, I was right before you called. One of them is, shout out to Kobe Wilkerson. I don't know if you know Kobe. Kobe is an author, and I actually was able to mentor Kobe through this book process. He talks about me in his forward. Well, he wrote that book in a week. And so Kobe, he wrote it in a week. It's a great book, man. And, you know, Kobe holds extreme value to me. Ron Harvey, guru of leadership here in Columbia and across the world. John Maxwell, leadership coach. Those people are people I check in with constantly. I check in with them. They check in with me. They check in to see how I'm doing. And so that constantly iron sharpens iron, that accountability. You know, if I'm not on my A game with something, them calling me out. One of my good friends, Rob was at state with us. I don't know if you remember Rob Taylor, but he, you know, I wrote about him in my book. He has this thing called Rob Logic where you got to read the book to get it, but he just takes everyday situations and just makes you think about it. Like he didn't tell you what to think, but he questioned the way you think.
Right. We definitely got to talk to those guys one day. I got 2 more questions for you, and I'm gonna let you get out of here because I know you got a certain time frame that we got.
Yep.
These next 2 questions, but one of them is a question. The other is just about an affirmation that I'm trying to get started for my brothers who come on the show.
Okay.
So 2 questions in the affirmation. Should there be a basic training program for men in impoverished societies, skill traits given outside of school? I know you're in the education system, but should there be something in our communities that says, hey, my next door neighbor and his family will know how to read. My next door neighbor and their family, we have this skill trait, they have this skill trait. We are building our community. Everybody will have a basic level of education here. Should there be something like that in place, especially in the Black community?
Well, yes. Yeah, the short answer is yes. And to go a little bit deeper, I think we've gotten complacent in expecting the structures and the systems that weren't built for us in the first place to do that job. So it is very important for those structures to be in place because I think they were once there. Like when we were closed off, when we were before integration, right? You know, we had those bartering systems. We had, you know what? I don't have money, but you got chickens. I got pigs. Let's figure out a way. I know that's like a weird answer, but if you look at that mentality that they had to make sure that we were pulling each other up, then it's so important. And we tell our daughter all the time, you know, 4-year college is not necessary if that's not what you want to do. If it's not leading you to where you want to go. If you want to pick up a trade like cosmetology and doing hair and makeup and all that kind of stuff, there is great money in that.
Yeah.
And you won't have the debt that I have.
Right. There's great money in that.
So as far as programs in our communities, as a base model to teach, you know, very basic skills, life skills. And one thing I found, Sheem, is that just some of the abstract things that I was afforded because of my upbringing, just the abstract skills of communicating, problem solving, critical thinking, remaining calm in situations, how to go through steps to make the right decision. In addition to making sure that, you know, people in the community know how to read, and do basic math and some of the technological things that we have now with technology, the basic part of that is so crucial. Now, the mode to get there, right?
I think using assets is one of the modes. I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to put this in perspective. In Columbia, in South Carolina, where I used to live, the library system is one of the most hidden gems. They have everything at the library. They even have 3D printers.
3D printers. Like if you're a hip hop artist, you can go there and record your album for free. For free.
Everything and state of the art. We're not talking in every library across the city of Columbia. I'm pretty sure across the state of South Carolina. Yeah. Now everybody can't get to the library when you live in rural country.
Right.
But you can create a library with your neighbors. You can there are blueprints out there. We got to start mimicking and stop creating so much.
Yeah. My sister-in-law works at the one downtown, man, and she's always saying like, you know, there's so many resources. Like even if you need help with your resume and stuff like that, because she does that kind of stuff with the library. And so many people don't take advantage of it. If you're an author, they have an authors club where you can get your book featured. They have like farmers market. Now this is pre-COVID, obviously, but I mean they have so many resources that people.
Farmers market was every Wednesday, and they gave out vouchers for people who have underprivileged families can get free food. Yeah. But no one ever came to get the vouchers.
So a lot of times there are resources out there. But one thing I learned, and this is not to diminish anybody, but there's a reality that, you know, some people don't want to move up. Not up in the socioeconomic, but some people don't. They're so stuck and they're so used to this is what we've always done. Sometimes you have to get them here first. Like they have to believe that they can reach certain things and do certain things because they'll psych themselves out because their mother or father couldn't do it or didn't do it.
That's why I spoke to you about how important it is to move away where you're from and rebranding yourself.
Yeah.
Validation from your partner. It's like you win a championship when you found the right man or woman to be with. But how important it is for you to defend the title. Are you competing to keep your wife's attention?
Am I competing? It can seem that way, but I think you end up.
No, I think you should. I think you should.
No. You should, but I think you end up competing with the versions of yourself as you go through a marriage.
Ooh.
So yeah, they're outside forces. They're outside, you know, there are other men outside that she interacts with, women that I interact with on a daily basis. But at the end of the day, it's competing with those versions of yourself. And I'm not saying this, what I'm about to say is 100% true, but more than likely the version of yourself that was dating and marriage is probably the version as far as the energy that you put in that you want to maintain throughout your marriage. Because let's be honest, as you go through years, some things fall off. You know, you get home tired. Last night, prime example, I didn't realize I did it until my wife was asleep. Like I came home, I was tired. I got home like 8:30, 8:45, and she was already asleep. I didn't want to wake up. I realized like I didn't kiss her when I got home. I was laying in the bed. I realized I put everything down. I got something to eat. She was doing work in the bed or whatever. And, you know, we spoke to each other. It wasn't like, nothing like that. But I always do that.
Don't forget to defend the title, brother.
I got to always defend. So I always have to compete with the versions of myself. So the part of me in year one that was rubbing her feet at least once a week. Now, when the last time I rubbed my wife's feet?
Don't forget to defend the title.
Yeah, gotta keep defending the title.
Defend the title.
I don't think it's defending the title against anybody out there. It's defending the title against the versions of yourself.
I love that answer.
Finding the best version of yourself, whether it's dealing with the emotional, physical, and spiritual parts of your marriage. defending the title with the different version of yourself, man? That's a good question, man.
Now that leads me into my final affirmation that I want to put on you. And it's a question also, but I want to talk about it. And you once again have segued me perfect into it. I came up with this thing called operating at 100%. It is a daily test for yourself and an overall average of the way you live in your life. For example, I came up with 5 things that I broke it down in percentages that are subjective to how you feel about yourself. Now, one will be purpose, health, confidence, money, and knowledge. And for me, the highest thing I have is health. And then I have confidence second. And then I have purpose, knowledge, then money. Some people can have money first. My question to you, if you had these things in a percentage and you looked at your life today in the last 24 hours of your life, are you operating at 100%?
In every area?
And yeah, because listen, if we took purpose, right? You living in your purpose today. Yes, absolutely you are. You're there, you're working, you're helping others. That is your
Let me
purpose.
get the 5. So money, health, purpose.
Confidence and knowledge. Because you got to take knowledge in to be able to help people.
Yeah.
You got to have some money to be able to.
This is my last 24 hours.
Just go by your last 24 hours. If you look at it, if you look at health.
The last 24 hours from now, the last 24
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah. When you wake up in the morning, you can start your 24 because when you make up, some people work out, they eat right or whatever. Health, are you going to live in your purpose? Are you confident when you do these things in anything you do? Did you make some money today? Did you lose some money today? Did you take in something new that you didn't know today to help grow yourself? And you can give those percentages how you want to give them. But if you give purpose 30% and today you had a day off and you didn't do anything, then you wasn't working at 100% today.
Right.
And you're not really hurting yourself, but day by day you're giving yourself these percentages, and then you can go back every week and said, man, as a whole, I operated at 80%. And if you have goals, you can say to yourself, well, the reason I didn't reach this goal because I was only operating at 80% this week.
Yeah.
I need to get that average up to 90. I need an A or better. And that's how you know you're doing something.
Yeah.
Operating at 100%.
Money, I would say the last 24 hours, I'm at a 60%. I'm gonna tell you why. You want me to tell you why?
It depends on how much percent you gave money.
So does everything have to add up to 100?
Yes.
Oh, so I'm doing it wrong. I'm doing this wrong.
Everything adds up to 100. So for example, if you gave 20% the money, 20% of each one is 5, right? So if you got 14% in money, then you're 6% off of where you could be. But then you also have to have a goal, how much money you want to make a day. $300 a day makes you a millionaire, Yeah. So it depends on, it's personal to you.
Yeah.
Some people just want to make $5 a day, $10 a day, or balance, make sure they paid all the bills. That's also a good thing today. Anything that associates with money. Did you go to the vending machine and spend $2 a day for 7 days, which is $14? Yeah.
Yeah, money is 10%.
Right, there you go. Money is 5% for me, I think. I did 5%.
Because like, even though I have, like I mentioned earlier in our conversation, even though I check my account balance, I look at my debt sheet every day, every other day. Sometimes I make those decisions that aren't best. For example, I got breakfast this morning and I should have made the smoothie at home, but I let Tropical Smoothie make it. And I got a little breakfast sandwich. That was $10 on credit.
And listen to this though. The smoothie was healthier. So now your health and your money took a hit on your percentage today.
Yeah. Cause I put some extra stuff in my smoothie. Yeah.
Just think about it. You just start holding yourself accountable for minute things and how much greater you would be once you're operating at 100%. Now it's very hard. If you're hard on yourself and you challenge yourself with accountability, it's hard to operate at 100%, but it's not hard to be confident about what grade you feel is acceptable to go to sleep.
I actually gave myself high on health just because like working out is really important to me. Because I got some health goals I'm trying to reach. So I put 40% there.
There you
I
go.
put 20% on purpose. I put 20% on purpose just because like I think about things I should be doing a lot, but I don't always do them. And sometimes I just don't do them. I don't really have a reason why I don't do them. I just don't do them. I get lazy. And even though I've done all these things and I do a lot of important work, I like watching TV sometimes, man. Like I find a good show. I ain't think about my purpose. I ain't think about giving back.
Lovecraft Country. I like Lovecraft Country.
I haven't started that one yet, man. But I like a good TV series, man. I like a good TV series. But purpose 20, confidence 10, man. And I know that seems low, but I do have confidence in what I do. But surprisingly enough, sometimes I still doubt myself and wonder if it's enough, if I'm doing enough.
See, this is why it's subjective. You challenge yourselves in the area you know you have problems with, and that's the percentage you want to get up. Because the way you live your life and the way you don't give up on people, your confidence is a given 10% every day. But what about that 40? You know what I'm saying? Is that a given?
Yeah, but you know what's crazy, Sheem, is my perception of my confidence is 10%. But I think for the people I interact with, they probably think it's much higher than that if they had to give it a percentage.
Right. That's why this is subjective.
Yeah.
You know how you work. Know thyself is the key to everything.
Yeah. 20% for knowledge. That rounds me out to 100%. I think my biggest focus is like health. Like, you know, I've been really focused on trying to do better healthy wise. Matter of fact, me and my wife, we just started talking about meal planning just to make sure our portions are right. So we're going to start doing that next week because it helps. You know, it helps with portions, it helps health wise, and being able to do the things we need to do.
So when you at the end of this thing, right? When you look at the percentages, you then start to break it down by detail on what you did to create the percentages. So having meal plans underneath health is a check mark for a certain amount of that percentage. Drinking water instead of soda is a certain amount for that percentage. Exercise instead of sitting down and chilling is an exercise is a right for that percentage. So I just wanted to put that out there for all my men, that we start operating at 100% and there's nothing they can do. Because when you speak about your father being the biggest influence in your life, to be honest with you, I have gotten my father was the biggest influence in my life from all my guests. But in reality, in media, that is not reflected that Black fathers even do anything for us. So the biggest thing I get out of my first question is the same answer. And that speaks volumes of what's really, really going on.
There are more fathers there than the media wants you to believe, or that society wants you to believe.
Absolutely.
And they're there in very unique ways.
Absolutely.
Like the way my father was there is not the same across the board for everybody else. But that doesn't mean his impact wasn't as good, or their impact wasn't as powerful. So yeah, man, absolutely.
Thank you, sir. You are now a part of the Silhouette Boys Club. It is people like you who move in the shadows to help people like me shine. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Mr. Craig. Please tell them where we can find your book. Tell them where we can find you, and speak on it, Mr. King.
Absolutely. So you can stay in contact with me on social media at CQ King on Instagram and Twitter, and Craig King Group all together on Instagram and Twitter. Follow both pages. My book can be purchased on Amazon. The Path to Exceptional Living, 15 Lessons to Live an Extraordinary Life on Amazon, or you can go to my website and purchase it, and I can have a signed copy for you at craigkinggroup.com. So would love to connect with you. Email address is info@craigkinggroup.com. So Reach out to me.
Send me that link, man, so I can support you, my brother, and get me an autograph.
You want the signed copy or you want the Amazon link? Which one you want?
I want the signed copy, but sending it to me right now might be a little expensive. So I'm gonna get the signed copy and have somebody pick it up to hold it for me.
All right.
Absolutely.
Bet. I got
you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut your shout out off.
No, I'm good.
Well, Craig King, thank you very much. And I hope
the dream, my brother.